Hello students. In the last video we started to introduce you to solving linear equations. So in this video we're going to have to revise a really important skill when you're solving linear equations, which is the order of operations. So the way that I teach the order of operations is using BEMA, which means we first do all the operations inside the brackets. We then do any indices or powers, evaluate those. Multiplication and division are equal, so we start from the left and work to the right. And addition and subtraction are equal, so we start from the left and work to the right. So let's go ahead and evaluate these 5 expressions using BEMA. So the first one, 3 plus 2 times 5. Well, I've got 2 operations, add and multiply. Multiply comes before add, so I like to just underline the first operation that I'm going to do, and that gives me 3 plus 10, and 3 plus 10 equals 13. Okay, if I have brackets around the 3 plus 2, well, brackets are done before multiplying, so that changes the order of operations, and that gives me 3 plus 2 is 5 times 5, and 5 times 5 is 25. Okay, go ahead and stop the video, solve the next 3, evaluate the next 3, I should say, and check your answers. Okay, students, let's see how you went. So the first operation I have to do here is divide. Multiplication and division are equal, so we just start at the left. 24 divide 4 is 6, times 2 is 12. With question number 4, if I want to do the multiplication first, rather than the divide first, I put brackets around that. So now I have 24 divided by, and 4 times 2 is 8, and that gives me 3 for the answer. So notice by putting the brackets in there, in fact, I have changed the answer. So the order of operations is important. Now question 5, there's implied brackets around this. Whenever you have especially a plus or a minus sign in a numerator or denominator of a fraction, the implication is you do the evaluate the expression in the numerator or denominator first, and then divide by 2. So for this one, I'm first going to do the 2 times 7. So I've got 2 plus 14 all over 2. Again, the implication is I simplify the numerator first. So that's going to be 16 over 2, which simplifies to 8, or evaluates to 8. So there's a quick review of the order of operations. And it turns out that you need to know the order of operations in order to be effective at solving linear equations. Okay, here I've got a present for you. Now, what we're interested in is working out the order to start with that you would have to do these. There's 5 steps here. Which one would you have to do first, which one second, in order to wrap up the present? So add a bow, tie with ribbon, put lid on the box, put present into box, wrap with paper. So obviously the first thing you're going to have to do is, out of these 5 steps, is put the present in the box. So put that on the top. Okay, now that the present's in the box, we can put the lid on the box second. Okay, I would say let's wrap it up with paper is step number 3. Tie it up with ribbon is step 4. And then finally add the bow to the top. So the order is important when you're wrapping up a present. Now, what I'd like you to do is to just have a think about it. You can't drag these around like I've been doing. But if you're going to unwrap the present, let's say that I gave you this present, what's the order for unwrapping the present? So have a think about that, and then restart the video once you think you've got the correct answer. Now, and you're probably wondering what this has to do with solving equations, so be patient, you'll find out. It's very much teaching you how to solve equations. Okay, well the first thing I have to do is take the bow off. The second thing I have to do is remove the ribbon. Okay, so I still have paper around it, so I can't remove the present until I unwrap the paper. I can't remove the present until I've taken the lid off. Whoops, there we go. And then finally I can remove the present from the box. So these are the steps for wrapping. These are the steps for unwrapping. Notice how the last step in wrapping, when I unwrap, I've got to undo that one first. So the first thing I do is I undo adding a bow. The second thing I do when I'm unwrapping is I undo the second last step. So the second last step, tie with ribbon, I've got to undo that one. And it turns out that's the basic procedure for solving equations. Oh, by the way, if you want to see what's in the box, it's a very, very nice present. Because we're studying algebra, I've given you a very nice letter X. I hope you appreciate that. Okay, let's do one more look at dressing and undressing, or just reverse operations. So before school, I put on my socks, then I put on my shoes, and then I tie the laces. So hopefully you don't try to put your shoes on before your socks. It wouldn't look particularly good. Now, when you get home from school, it's the same idea. The first thing I have to do is untie the laces. Then I can take off my shoes. And finally, I can take off my socks. Take off socks. And that's, again, the same concept that if this is what you do to dress in the morning, you've got to undo those steps in reverse order to undress in the afternoon. Now let's see how that applies to equations. So here's what I'm starting with. I've got my variable y. I'm going to dress it up. Well, I have to dress it up using the order of operations. So my two choices are multiply by 4 and add 1. Well, multiply comes before add. So dressing it up, I first multiply by 4. I then add 1. And I know that the value of that expression is 21. So that's dressing up the equation, or dressing up the variable y. Now, to solve it, it turns out we just have to undo those steps in reverse order. And this is really the key to solving equations. So here's the equation all dressed up, or the variable all dressed up. I want to get back to just the y by itself on the left-hand side. So what I have to do is use the order of operations in reverse. So the first thing I'm going to do is either add or subtract. Then I'm going to multiply or divide. Then I'm going to undo powers. And finally, I'll undo what's inside the brackets. So my first step is just take 1 from each side. They cross out. Plus 1 minus 1 goes to 0. And 4y plus 0 is 0. So I'm starting to undress the y, and 21 take 1 is 20. The operation I have here now is times. 4 times y. I've got to undo multiplying by 4. Well, the opposite of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. And there's the answer. So in one step, in order to solve any equation, what you have to do is undo the steps, use the order of operations in reverse order. And that pretty much is the rule for solving equations. Now, it does get a bit more complicated than that, but that's the basis of solving equations.